Hey everybody, good morning. I'm JD Hoovener, the host of the Bold Patent Show. I'm with Matt Kolseth here. He's our trademark attorney. Matt, how are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm home with a sick kid today, so I imagine she'll be busting in here any minute.
Oh man, well I'm sorry to hear that. Sick kids are not fun. Well, having sick kids is not fun, but you're such a good dad for being there. If you have bring them on the camera, bring her up. You know,
we'll see. We'll see. Okay. Whenever like the kids like see me like on like your channel doing like the live stream, they're like, "Are you famous?" And I'm like, yes, no, just because you're on, streaming or online on YouTube doesn't mean you're famous. So.
Oh, you should lean into that, Matt. I tell my kids, yeah, I'm on TV. Dad's on TV. Yeah. All right. Well, let's do this. We have got two wonderful guests. They're waiting patiently backstage. We have Alexandra Devendra with Aligned.Law and Len Garza. So we've got two business law attorneys, people that know a lot more about how to actually help our inventors and trademark clients make money than we do. So I'm excited to bring them on and share their expertise with our broader community. Justin, good to see you. Good morning. Justin, bring those questions on. You always got really good questions. We're going to tee up the live Q&A throughout this program as we normally do. We got two live new viewers. Love to see that. Quick little disclaimer for anybody watching who might be new. We are attorneys, but by virtue of you joining this broadcast, we are not your attorneys, okay? And so please do not assume that. Also, do not raise any confidential questions. This is a public forum. If you have anything specific for you personally, don't ask it here in the public channel. Schedule a consultation with Bold Patents, and I'll provide a link here in just a few minutes. And if you have any questions for our guests, we'll see if they're going to be willing to let us share their information as well. I'm going to get right into it, Matt. What do you think? We're going to bring the guests on, and we'll have all four of us.
Sounds good.
So, Alex, welcome to the show.
Hi Matt. Hi, JD.
Hey, Alex.
And hey, Len. Good morning.
Hey, everyone. Hey, JD, Matt, Alex.
Hey, Len.
Hi, Len.
All right. Hi. All right. Four attorneys. We're going to try to make this exciting as we can. We're covering different parts of the country. Matt is out of Minnesota. I'm here in Washington State. Alex is from Oregon, right? Portland, Oregon? Yep. Okay. Aligned.Law out of Portland, Oregon. And then Len, you're in the East Coast, kind of the Northeast. What state are you hailing from?
Princeton, New Jersey.
Princeton, New Jersey. Excellent. Well, we're covering a lot of the bases here. And I should say, the topic today is going to be about business law. We have inventors at Bold Patents, right? Inventors, entrepreneurs, creators. Matt here, and he's been helping our clients with the trademark protection side. One of the things that we've struggled with is continually, we have enlightened, super excited clients that want to go change the world. And we're helping them with just one piece, helping to secure the IP, but trying to get them to set up a foundation to start a company and grow is beyond our own ken. So we try to make referrals out to smart attorneys and business attorneys like Alex and Len. And so I brought them on this platform. I want to share this with you guys and kind of hear their own thoughts about how to start up. What are those key first steps that every inventor, every innovator, before they start a company, right? I know a lot of times it's hard. You catch them when they're midway through or they have trouble. But Alex and Len, I'll have you guys go one at a time. What are some of the first things you would say to someone if you catch them at that right time before they've started in a proactive way? What are those first few things that you would help them think about as they get started?
Well, I'll just jump in and start. Oftentimes, if two people are starting a business together, they have a pre-existing relationship. They may be close friends. And I really kind of put the relationship at the center of the planning and the advice. And so I'm certified in something called the conscious contracts method, which is, again, taking a relational lens and applying it to your operating agreement or, co-founder agreement. And really asking them like, hey, what are your shared mission, vision, values? Like, what are you hoping to get out of this? And then also like, what is your conflict style? Like, what's going to happen if down the road, the two of you are not seeing eye to eye on something? Like, how are we going to work through that? And you can put things in their operating agreement and give them tools to help address that future, possible conflict. And there's some great tools out there. Actually, there's another company here in Portland that designed a deck called the Brave Founders deck. And it has different cards.
Like a deck of cards?
Yeah, it's like a card deck, and
Nice.
it has different categories. So it's like asking you, what are 3 things you expect I will do to make this a success? So these are questions you would ask your co-founder, or like conflict. If I have a problem with you or something that happened between us, how should I bring it up?
I love that. Could you hold that deck up again for me? That was awesome. Let's get that on camera.
Yeah.
Cool. Brave founder. Are you a part of that, or is it just
no? Just I happened to meet the person who created it, and I said I bought a bunch because I was like, this is going to be great for my startup clients.
Very good. Very well. Thank you for that. And all right, let's do this. Len, would you chime in here? What are your thoughts on that? Just initial things.
Absolutely.
How do you help someone? Just getting started.
I think Alex, she hit the nail right on the head, and I think that's a great idea. I'm gonna look at picking up some of those cards. These are the tough questions for a lot of business owners, right? And I think there's a lot that have not answered or addressed these questions. I work with a number of companies where they come to me and they're so focused on the business, so focused on the product, service, technology, whatever, and they've talked to each other about some of the day-to-day decision making, and so far everything's been going well. But how are we going to resolve conflict in the future? And it's going to happen. Life is business, business is life, right? So when you're going out and you're starting a company and you're creating something, you're going to be tested. It's some form or fashion. It's just the nature of the beast. And how you communicate about that with your partner or partners, and how you address those things if you do them productively. It's important that you have those conversations, and that of course is eventually spelled out in agreements, your operating agreement, partnership agreement, bylaws, whatever the type of entity is, and that those documents end up reflecting those values and how you want to resolve things. But just drafting that up is putting the cart in front of the horse, so to speak. I have founders who come to me and say, "Oh, Len, we started a company and we just need you to draft up the documents, draft up the bylaws, or whatever." But just doing that without addressing the relational aspects, as Alex talked about, is really doing a disservice. And when you talk about the relational aspects, that's core to get that handled right up front.
That's awesome. And aside from those contracts, I agree. I think that's got to be key. Making sure you sort of forecast. It seems a bit negative to think about, hey, what could go wrong up front? But I think that's smart, and it's a great point that people don't think about. Oh, things are going great. We're raising money. We're all excited. We're in this together. We're co-inventors. We're buddies. It's sort of challenging to think about what could go wrong, how you might split assets if something were to go wrong. Let's shift a little bit in terms of what kind of company do you form? You hear kind of the, going big venture capital, the Silicon Valley kind of stories, or should we keep it small? How are we going to grow smartly? Can you guys give some advice on what should, two co-founders, let's say, that are just getting started, what kind of company should they form or think about as they get started?
Do you want to go first this time, then?
I guess I'll go ahead and go first this time, Alex. Right. So, I think you hit what you talked about, JD, is important. The founders, you have to have a vision. What's their vision for the future? Are they looking at getting outside funding, even venture capital funding? Are they, sorry.
You got some gardening going on out there?
Background. Right.
Yeah.
But spraying for mosquitoes over here on the East Coast, it's that time of year, right? So, right, what is their vision? And again, we go back to the conversation before of the relationship, and also what the vision is for the company. Do all the founders have the same vision for the company? Or is one thinking, wow, this one, I want to form this and I really want to live with this company. I'm not thinking about an exit right now. And the other one, or the other partners may be thinking, this is great for my life right now. I'm really passionate about this. But yes, I am thinking about exiting 5-7 years down the road, or maybe sooner or later. It's important to get those hashed out, because different consequences and decisions come from that, like the choice of entity.
Yeah, and just to delve into that even a little bit more, especially for first-time entrepreneurs, they might not realize the implications of these different choices. Like, do we start with a corporation or an LLC? Because that's going to affect how you pay yourselves, how you're taxed, what types of investors might be attracted to invest. There's a great book, so I got all my props here, Raise Capital on Your Own Terms,
I
that
love it.
kind of walks through the options and it gets creative too. It's not just like Silicon Valley VC, that's the only way to raise money. It's giving you a broader perspective of the different ways to raise money and how that might affect how you decide to structure your company. But even when you're not raising outside money, there's so many considerations to think about. Like, if someone's never been an entrepreneur before, okay, if you're going to be in an LLC, you're not getting a W-2 paycheck anymore. You're going to have to worry about quarterly estimated taxes. And just like, I'm not a tax attorney, but it's like I want to flag those issues for them and make sure they've thought through like how this is actually going to work for them.
That's great. That's great. So not just blindly, grabbing, going to LegalZoom and just thinking you know the answers and doing it on your own. Thinking it through, getting a counselor that'll help you, consider, have those issues raised up so you can make a really good decision. That sounds like kind of the way to move forward. What I want to do, Len, were you going to say something else?
Yeah, if I could just add to that, JD, right. I mean, that's exactly right. So many specific questions. For example, I've run into a situation with some founders the last year and a half or so with really the war for talent, keeping the talented people. A couple of tech founders I've dealt with said, hey, they've run into situations where their top engineer, top person, or a couple of people have bolted, for example, because of better pay, better benefits packages, things like that. And that is a very key area between, for example, LLCs and C corporations, how you structure benefits and benefit packages. And I mean, this is even a more separate niche of the law that gets very specific into, ERISA laws and tax laws and things like that. But this is something where the owner, his business was organized as an LLC, and there are a number of different options where you can give that type of compensation, but they're not necessarily as clean and straightforward and stayed as the type of options with the corporation. It's a little bit more different, some of the tax implications. So LLCs are great. I think they're pitched by a lot of companies out there, maybe a lot of lawyers, as very versatile. One size fits all, and they are very versatile, but they're not one size fits all. It really devil's in the details. So when you talk about your vision, different things you want to do, employees, that's where it really pays to talk with somebody that does this. So to be able to unearth some of the things that could make a difference to you. And it might be a decision why you would want to choose another type of entity versus maybe one you've heard is the best for you.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, we have, obviously we have inventors, and so one of the issues that can come up is, I've got a company that exists, and yet I've got my own inventions, right? Let's say I'm in professional services, I'm a dentist or a chiropractor, or in some type of specialty medical device, right? That's one area we're actually focusing at here at Bold this year. And I've got a new product. I've got something that's innovative, I think can actually make a big difference. Do I just roll that IP into the current company I'm in, or do I try to structure that separately?
Well, I can speak to that. I happened to have a client recently that kind of fits exactly what you just described. He had a optometry practice, and then he developed this tool that would help other optometrists. And so he decided to form a separate LLC to put that in there and try to, basically do some R&D and see if it has legs and if it's valuable to other practitioners. Interestingly, they were in California, where there's a $800 a year minimum franchise tax. So it's no small decision to set up a second LLC and not do it within his existing business. But it can also help to separate things, especially if you're going to involve different people in that side of things. Separating out the revenue and that sort of thing.
Okay, so if you're an innovator and you've got a company set up, maybe you're already revenue generating, setting up a separate LLC to house the income or the actual intellectual property apart from the company. Did you pull off any other IP, let's say the trademarks or anything else, or is it really just focused on the patent?
Yeah, we haven't done the trademark application yet because they're still kind of in the very early stages. But yeah, I mean, and Len can probably speak to this as well. I mean, there's other benefits to keeping it separate, separating the potential liabilities from his practice and, whatever's going to go on with this new thing. That would be another reason.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about IP, but that goes for a number of other assets like Alex talked about, and separating out the liability. So some people can look at the IP, but you can also look at it as your IP company that also has real estate or some amount of real estate. So you think of all different types of liability. So you run out different scenarios. Okay, if we had a slip and fall or something happened with liability as to the real estate, and somebody sues the real estate, how can you structure that to where the main business isn't put at risk? The IP and other assets aren't put at risk. There's a way to structure it where there's really open liability and everything's put at risk. And the way I explain it to clients is, look, you have a castle, right? And you have the castle, and if all the different dangers can come in, how easy or difficult do you make it for them to attack what's inside the castle? Well, you could put a moat around the castle. There are certain legal structurings that you have there. You could put a fence around the moat. There are different types of things that you could structure in, with legal analogs to be able to do that. But if you don't do anything of that, you're exposed. Now, for example, if you have a corporation or limited liability, if you're created that and maintain that in the right way, that's a key. Maintain that in the right way, not just create it. It's not set it and forget it. Do you have that limited liability? Yes, you do. But there are different levels of protecting things that Alex and I can go into depending on what the assets and potential liabilities are in that business.
Awesome, Len. Okay, I want to go into. I should ask. Have you guys had your breakfast yet? Okay, super cheesy. Well, I didn't give you. We're gonna go take a bold bite.
I'll play, JD. I'll play. No, I have not.
Okay, good. At least Len and I are starving. We're gonna go for a bold bite today. I'm gonna take a segment of Shark Tank, and we're gonna critique it. All right. This is a product that kind of fits into what's going on here to some degree. It's an inventor. It's a product, and as Matt's got in his background, he's got a young child. It's about creating artwork.
She's apparently sick today. I don't know. Doesn't seem like it.
No, I mean, she might like this example. So I'm gonna switch over my audio, and we'll play this segment here.
Okay, here we go. We have to listen to.
From watching Shark Tank to grow one of my other inventions to massive sales. So Shark.
Oh, here we go. Let's see.
100,000.
Let's see what we can do here.
You switched to T-Mobile home internet yet? Trim your hedge.
Sorry guys, gotta play through this
It's
first.
$50 a month with no price hikes. Bam! Son, it runs on T-Mobile wireless 5G network. So all you gotta do is plug in one cord. T-Mobile 5G home internet. Just $50 a month. No price hikes, no hidden fees.
I did it.
Yes.
I switched to T-Mobile home internet and I am loving it.
Don't sneak up on me like that.
Why didn't you tell me to switch earlier?
And has been used
All right.
on the barn and
looks like it's not running right now, unfortunately. So I'm gonna stop sharing there. Apologize, guys. Normally I have that clip set up ahead of time. I think what they've done is actually pretty smart. I'm gonna go back to my headset. Hold
Yeah, they're basically forcing you these days to pay for YouTube Premium.
I sense an opportunity for all the inventors, founders out there to bypass that some way. I don't know. I'm sure there are other legalities involved too, but
so hey, we do this every week, and I use a clip. The issue what I did this week is I was trying to share it on ABC's page. So I think what happened was they got smart, or some of their software engineers got smart, and so somehow it realizes when you're doing a screen share, and so it turned off the video during the screen share. Very cool. I'm impressed. But normally we do this to normally YouTube play, and it's a critique under copyright law. For those that don't know, even attorneys, right? I can show a clip that's truly not my content, but as long as we're critiquing it, it's fair use. That's the way my argument is. So we've been doing that for this year. Unfortunately, we couldn't show that segment, but it was for this technology for it's called the Lucy, and it's an interesting little lens, and you use it to draw. It helps you draw out, different things, fruit basket, or any type of a coloring book where you can learn how to actually trace the image using this lens. It kind of sets like a projector on the table, and it helps people draw. And what the inventor had come up, so it's spelled Lucy, in case you guys want to pull up maybe on the trademark side. But the Lucy product, it has a provisional filing, and the inventor, or the one pitching to the sharks, was proclaiming to have a provisional patent. And it's one of those things that sort of it gets me a lot, because I hear people saying that they have a provisional patent, and that's sort of a misnomer, right? You have no legal rights when you file a provisional patent application. It is just that, it's an application. And so you've got a pending status at the patent office, but you do have to follow that up with a non-provisional, which is the formal filing that will actually get you to the examination phase. So having a provisional filed is certainly a good thing, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot in terms of its actual value. You have to make sure you look beyond the statement, make sure you understand what exactly that they own. And in this case, this drawing tool had been around for a long time. It's actually hundreds of years old. Some of the old artists used to use something like it. But I thought it was fascinating how they showed some improvements of the technology, and they made the viewing box a little bit larger. The holograph of the image was able to show up a lot better. So they've made improvements. And the final thing I wanted to highlight was that those improvements, even though, or the actual core invention it's 100 years old, but you can actually still go after and file for and conceivably protect those subtle improvements. Like I said, making the screen larger, making it height and more oriented toward someone that's younger. So those little small improvements, you can still go and get incremental patents for on that. So sorry we couldn't show the clip. And I wanted us to see if, Matt, if you had a chance to look up that trademark, if we could give some critique on that.
Yeah, you said so. It's Lucy, Lucie.
Lucy was what it was.
Lucy. Interesting. I'm looking for it right now. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. Oh, here it is. Maybe this is it. So optical apparatus, namely image reflecting artist tools used to aid drawing or painting.
Yes, sir. You got it. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, they registered that back in 2020.
Okay.
So that is in full effect and force.
Okay. So they filed it. Do you think they did a decent job on the file?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I mean, they're in almost like mechanical apparatus products category. So there's 45 classes of goods and services at the USPTO. Typically like artist materials, painting kits, paint brushes, that sort of thing, would be class 16. But in this case, they're class 9 because they have some sort of like almost scientific aspect or apparatus to it. Yeah. So yeah, I think they did a good job. I would say the only thing that I would typically recommend our clients consider doing is if they are selling their product, selling Lucy from their own website, they might consider also filing a second application in class 35 to protect the online retail store. But those are typically the big ones.
Cool. All right, thank you, Matt. So yeah, let's bring it back to the kind of the business side. The premise of Shark Tank, and I'm sure Len and Alex, you haven't seen it. The idea is, you got an innovator that's looking to get share equity, or they're asking for investment for a share of their company. And I see this a lot where people are just showing off their products. And the difference between a product and a company. Maybe you could shed some light as to some of the issues that can come up with inventors that are trying to start, grow, ask for investment in their company when it seems to be just a product.
Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and start this one off. So what I tell inventors and what I see repeatedly, because I represent both inventors and founders as well as investors as well, not on the same transaction, but different transactions, is that overall somebody looking to invest money in the company, whether it be a product or service, the product or service, that's important, but they're investing in you. They're investing in you. What's the commitment? What's the dedication? How sharp are you? How forward thinking are you? You want to make sure that that's structured, that you have that, and obviously the ambition and the diligence behind it, but also what's under the hood, so to speak. I like to say with the founders, not only it's not just a product or service, but what other investors are there, if any, and if there are other investors, what percentage of the pie do they have, and what are the terms on those pies, things like that. So I think a lot of time from the Shark Tank episodes that I've seen, there frequently are no other investors other than the founders themselves, which makes it an easy pie for the sharks to cut into. But what happens if you have other investors and then a second round of investors or investors after that, and it's like seats on a bus? Well, what if every investor wants to be the first row of seats on the bus? How do you make room for that money, or can you make room for that money vis-a-vis what terms other investors have already invested in? So yes, products and service, that's what gets people interested in the bus, on the bus initially, but things also have to be structured right, from a capital raise standpoint, investor makeup, equity split makeup, and also the company, the way it's formed and the way it distributes those rights, to make sure that those future investors stay interested and don't bolt because the makeup or the planning behind the company they think is all wrong or hasn't been done in a sophisticated and appropriate manner.
Awesome. Len, Alex, you have something to add to that?
Yeah, just second everything Len said. And, the other thing to keep in mind is, well, maybe using the bus metaphor, I had a client coming to me recently asking about doing a SAFE, which stands for Simple Agreement for Future Equity. And that's a tool that a lot of new startups, young startups are using before they do like a priced Series A round. But there's like nuances in how you do that. And I was talking with her about the difference between a pre-money safe and a post-money safe. Like, how are you going to calculate this? If you take on one investor now, and then you take on another safe investor in the future, like what happens to the denominator? And, is that first investor getting diluted, and how are they going to feel about that? So I think that's the bus metaphor. But, and then the other thing to keep in mind is, like, even if you're just raising money from friends or family, or you think it's like super low key and it's not on Shark Tank, it's not like an official thing, securities laws can still come into play when you're taking money from someone who's basically relying on you to see a return on their investment. So it's good to talk to an attorney and get some advice to make sure you're in compliance with those laws.
And just to add on what Alex said, a lot of different areas, securities laws, very, very big trap for the unwary here, for non-counseled, non-attorneyed founders and starters. I run into a number of starters who, understandably, startups who, they're strapped for cash earlier on, and don't get counsel, or maybe go to LegalZoom or free online forums, and they're doing what you have to do. But once you start taking in money, friends and family money, other type of investors, how well do you know them? Do you know them, or are they connections of connections where it's not personal relationships? You get into very deep water very quickly with securities laws. So I'd say it's absolutely critical to talk to an attorney who knows about this. I mean, safe notes or safe agreements, as Alex mentioned as well, the parameters, what they do and don't do for you if you're an investor versus a company, and just understanding the parameters of what they allow you to do is really critical, because once money starts changing hands, investments start going in, it's very difficult to unwind those down the road if they weren't gotten into the proper or appropriate way at the outset.
Perfect. Well, thank you both. We're at the end of our time, unfortunately, but I want to ask Alex and Len, is it okay if I give your email addresses out to those in the audience today, if they want to reach out with questions?
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
perfect. I've got that in the comments. We covered lots of ground. Sorry for the quick tech glitch on the Bold Bite, but we covered a lot in terms of entity formation types. We even talked about potential estate planning, touched on taxes, right, things to issue, and then at the very end, I think it was a great roundup where we talked about the difference between a product and a business, and how to think about not just how to ask for money, but they're actually investing in you, the company. And as you talked about, there's the first and second round and third round, the layer rounds of raising money can be really important, and you want to make sure you're set up well. So again, thank you both for being on our show, Alex and Len. We'll have to have you back. And for everyone out there, and on behalf of Bold Patents, we wish you all a great day. Go big, go bold.